This video will provide an overview of Galactic civilization's lore. In the beginning, there was a civilization called the Arnor. They explored much of the galaxy before anyone else was around. That Arnor spice stuff that you find, that comes from them. The Arnor were very advanced. They had once inhabited most of the habitable worlds in the galaxy and terraformed many that were not. The Arnor had a civil war with a splinter faction that we now refer to as the Dreadlords. The Dreadlords got pulled into a pocket universe at the end of that civil war when they were defeated by the Arnor. And no one's 100% sure what happened to the Arnor, but they're gone now. So most of the modern civilizations refer to Dreadlord remnants as precursors. Arnor artifacts are sometimes referred to as precursors too. So all of those artifacts you're finding in the game, little things hidden on planets, the occasional NPCs that you have to fight that are really hard, those are all from either the Arnor or the Dreadlords' leftover fragments. Getting on to the main civilizations in the game. The Drenjin and the Arcane came after the Arnor. They are some of the oldest in the game, and they explored the galaxy with probes moving at sub-light speed, so it took forever for them to explore. They invented huge devices called stargates to basically transport between worlds. Now the stargates had to be built on one planet, which took forever, and then they could only transport to another stargate, so it was pretty limited. The Drenjin tried to invade the Arcane through the stargate. The Arcane let the dragon fleet through, then closed the stargate and destroyed the dragon invaders. The Arcane later found the Altarian and sent them instructions on how to create a stargate. The Altarian were advanced enough to construct the stargate, and the two civilizations had trade. The dragon found a pre-industrial civilization called the Toria. The dragon did not teach the Toria how to build a stargate. What they did was build one and then send it floating through space for 70,000 years. When the Stargate finally arrived at Toria, the dragon sent a fleet through that quickly conquered and enslaved the Torian. The dragon and the Arcane both discovered a group of robots called the Yor, who had their own civilization. The Yor were originally servants of the Iconians, but they rose up and exterminated them, or thought to have exterminated the Iconians. The Iconians had originally been servants of the Arnor. The Dreadlords gave sentience and malevolence to the Yor to punish the Iconians for remaining loyal to the Arnor. The Yor observed the dragon enslaving the Torians and approved of that behavior. The Yor later learned how to build stargates from the dragon. The Yor, dragon, and Arconian slowly expanded their empire through use of stargates. But it wasn't very efficient because, you gotta travel somewhere the slow way first and then build a stargate to get anything done. The Torians waged a guerrilla war against the dragon overlords for hundreds of generations. They eventually got their freedom because the dragon had already exhausted their planet, and the benefits of staying didn't outweigh the cost anymore. In 2117, an Arcane probe discovered Earth and found the humans who were already using advanced fusion power. The Arcanes sent the humans designs for how to build a Stargate. The humans studied the design and they didn't like it. They decided it would make more sense to have ships travel through folded space, also known as hyperspace. So they started to work on something called the hyperdrive. Now, other civilizations had already considered the idea, but could not figure out how to power such a device. The humans' advanced fusion reactors held the missing link to hyperdrive construction. The hyperdrive allowed individual ships to move in any direction they wanted, even faster than travel between two individual stargates had been in the past. After inventing the first hyperdrive, the humans decided to share the design for both the hyperdrive and the advanced fusion reactors that power it with the Arcanes. While the Arcanes were building a hyperdrive, Dragon spies stole the design. From the Dragon, the idea eventually leaked out to the Yor, the Altarians, and the Taurians. With all major civilizations having the design, a race for expansion started in 2178. Everyone was building colony ships as fast as possible to colonize solar systems that were previously inaccessible. A technology race started then too. The humans discovered the Altarians and were shocked that they were the same species. The humans had evolved naturally, but the Altarians were the result of a powerful being called Mithralar. He's a big part of the lore too. Mithralar had supposedly built the Arnor as well. The humans and Altarians were diplomatically friendly from that point forward. The original 6 civilizations started to discover other star-faring civilizations during their expansion. The Koroks were one of the races discovered later. They were very old and have been trading with slow-moving sleeper pods around their galaxy prior to discovering the hyperdrive civs. When the Koroks developed hyperdrive, they started invading Altarian colonies. The human and Altarian alliance fought off the Koroks. They eventually discovered that a civilization called the Draith had paid the Koroks to attack the Altarians. The Draith were the original inhabitants of Altaria before Mithralar dropped off the Altarians. The Draith lacked space technology at that time, so Mithralar transported them to a distant planet. A covenant between the 8 major civilizations to a peaceful coexistence was made. Humans, Dragon, Arcane, Altarian, Yor, Taurian, Draith, and Koroks were all the civs of the original game. And the first 7 on that list survived all the way to the 4th game. As habitable worlds ripe for colonization began to run short during the race for expansion, the Dragon tried to invade Terran Alliance territory. Terran Alliance are the humans. The humans fought much harder than the Dragon had anticipated, and that invasion didn't work. In 2215, the Dragon discovered a malevolent pre-space flight race called the Zendar, who had just finished a world war on their planet. The Dragon upgraded the Zendar military with hyperdrive fleets. The Zendar were sent to soften the humans before a second Dragon attack that was supposed to wipe them out. The Terran Alliance fought better than expected again, and they actually completely exterminated the Zendar, which the Dragon found rather shocking. A new advanced civilization called the Thalon arrived around that time. They claimed to be from a dimension in the near future. The Thalon say they were sent to stop the human crusade. The Dragon accidentally brought the Dreadlords back to the Milky Way galaxy during an excavation of precursor ruin. The Dragon did not stand a chance against the Dreadlords, so they made a secret pact with the Yor and abandoned territory near the Dreadlords. The other 6 civilizations formed an alliance to fight the Dreadlords. After 5 years, they managed to defeat the Dreadlords, but their militaries were depleted. The Dragon and Yor had built up their military while the other 6 civilizations were fighting the Dreadlords. They moved in for a crushing blow on the other 6 civilizations at the very end of the war. The Terrans split their forces into 2, one to defend Earth and the other to defend the colony. The humans used a precursor artifact that's designed to imprison a planet on Earth to prevent anything from entering or exiting Earth. And they implanted it just in time to prevent the Dragon from conquering Earth. Then they used a second artifact they had found, which was the original artifact that trapped the Dreadlords in the Pocket Universe, and they used it on themselves so that they didn't get exterminated by the Dragon fleet that was surrounding them. The Dragon wound up having a civil war at about that same time. The Dragon had an elite fighting force called the Korath. The Korath completely exterminated the Crocs and most of the Taurian and Arcane. The rest of the Dragon wanted to enslave the enemies, not exterminate them. And that's what led to the Civil War. The significantly larger Dragon force defeated the Korath, but they took great casualties putting down their own warrior elites. The second fleet of Terran were able to keep the Yor at bay during the Civil War. Then they discovered that the Dreadlords were still around. They had just been weakened during that previous war. Nearby, a last remnant of the Iconians, the group that created the Yor and were thought to be extinct, was discovered. And the last known member of the Arnor also came by that planet to help them rebuild. With instructions from the last Arnor, the Iconians built a weapon that could destroy a whole solar system, and they called it the Terror Star. The Terror Star finished off the Dreadlord stronghold. After that, the last Arnor disappeared. The humans wanted to use the Terror Star on the Dragon, but the Thalon came out of nowhere and destroyed the Terror Star along with the plans to help them make a new one. The survivors of the Dragon Civil War reigned supreme in the galaxy. The Arcane homeworld has been sterilized by dragon bombardment. Koroks are completely destroyed. The Drave have disappeared from their homeworld. The Taurians are slaves again. Alteria is still fighting, but its colonies have been destroyed. Earth was stuck behind an impenetrable force field for 10 years. Nothing could get in or out, including communication. One fleet of the Terran are trapped in a pocket universe. The second fleet of Terran that was supposed to protect the colonies suffered heavy casualties and eventually splintered into two. All human colonies were slowly conquered and enslaved by the dragon. The total number of playable civilizations from all the expansion packs of all the previous Galactic Civilizations games is probably getting close to 40, and there are even more minor civilizations. So if enough people like this video, I'll make a whole series that explores the details of every civilization in Galactic Civilization lore. Thank you for watching another episode of SS Street Fighter. Leave a like, leave a comment, and click subscribe to join the Street Fighter army. I'd also like to send a thank you to my Patreon supporters, Charles and Nancy.